I am David Money. I am the acting dean of the School of Architecture at Kean University. And for the past several years, I've been working on a book about Michael Graves and Peter Eisenman, particularly their early careers when they came together at Princeton University in the 1960s, and how that partnership really affected the development of American architecture over the next generation. Michael came to Princeton in 1962, and Peter arrived a year later in 1963, and they immediately hit it off. They became collaborators as young faculty members at Princeton. They did some competitions together. But it was really the Jersey Corridor project which defined a different kind of relationship between the two, and one that was really meaningful. The Jersey Corridor project really represented a shift looking at the whole northeast region of the United States, and basically the development of a kind of continuous urban fabric that stretched from Boston to Washington. They tried to give that structure in the Jersey Corridor project and develop a design that could really organize that kind of growth in a meaningful way, rather than having the kind of sprawl I think we've all become accustomed to as growth simply happens of its own course. They tried to come up with a design that could really shape that in a meaningful fashion. Beyond the kind of general premise of stretching a linear city from New York to Philadelphia, they looked at one particular section from New Brunswick to Trenton, a 21-mile stretch, and they proposed then a linear city that would be composed of all the elements of life: offices, residences, shopping, greenways, parks, schools, all of it in a single structure. It was something that was really intended to be a credible option for how growth could be managed in the Northeast at that time. The presentation of the Jersey Corridor project is quite interesting because it really is of two very different types of illustrations. One are some very large perspective drawings, hard line drawing, hard edge, that really demonstrate the kind of urban scope and vision. Monolithic projects that would be stretching for miles, and the drawings really show this in the perspective. But along with that came a series of sketches, chalk sketches, almost cartoons that were done that demonstrated the human quality of what this project would entail. And I think that's what's so fascinating to me about this. It has both the very large-scale vision of how you can structure development across 21 miles of central New Jersey, but at the same time they talk about the particular individual qualities of what life would be like. The fact that there would be an emphasis on the pedestrian environment, the fact that you would have places where people could really gather and engage in a very particular and local way. So it wasn't simply a kind of large-scale utopian vision, it was much more particular about that. And ironically, in a way, it set up a whole series of developments in the nature of American urbanism that would come a generation later. Michael, for example, did some sketches that showed how the distance a person walked really defined the nature of particular spaces and their urban quality. And this would become a hallmark for the new urbanists. I think in the early 1960s, when Michael and Peter first formulated the idea of their linear city, it was a kind of utopian vision. 50 years later, we're at a point where we actually are building at that scale in many respects. And it's no longer a kind of dream to say this could be done. We actually can conceive of infrastructure and building that can stretch across miles now, and we can begin to plan for it. At the same time, there is the corresponding need to find those local places, to find those individual areas where people can find a particular identity and feel a sense of place. And the fact that they were able to straddle that 50 years ago, I think was really a harbinger of what would come in terms of urban development, not just in this country, but really all around the world.